one thing I never see addressed on anybody's videos is wire wicking or solder wicking. So let me zoom in here as best I can, see if I can show you this. Alright, so this is two wires that I've already soldered, and look at this. Now you try to bend the wire, and look at that. You see here, see it's solid all the way back to here? You would think, well, okay, so the wire's stiff, that's good. This is bad. This is really bad. This creates a very, very weak joint. When you solder these wires, you don't want the solder to wick its way up under the jacketing. You want it to be, you know, fingernails width between the end of the jacket and the end of the wire. Is where you want your solder to stop. And I will show you how to do that. A couple different ways, actually. Let's move this out of the way here. Let's prep this wire. Well, I'll just show you one of the two ways you can do it. One way here is you can buy what's called a anti-wicking tweezer. It's basically a little tweezer that goes over the end of your wire. It's made out of typically aluminum. It's a good heat sink, and it'll keep heat from traveling down the wire, because the solder is only going to move where the wire is hot enough to melt the solder. Then the solder will flow. If the wire is not as hot as that, it's not going to flow, and it's not going to wick. The wire is wicked pretty bad. You can see it's solid. The solder's going to be all the way back to here. A couple things you can do is you can just solder the wire and grab yourself an X-Acto knife and just strip your wire off back behind where it's wicked, which is what I'm going to do here. Pretty easy to do. Just figure out, yeah, we're about there. Grab your X-Acto knife, pop her out, and we'll go a little bit shorter where I think it's at, just in case. Just roll it. Strip that off of there, and yeah, it actually wasn't wicked as bad as I thought it was. It's kind of partially wicked, but let me strip this one back as well. There we go. So you can see there is no bending that wire. So, what we have to do now is we have to get this onto our flight controller, or sorry, our ESC here. And I'm thinking what I want to do, so this is going to be the back when we have it all together. I want this to go underneath the board. Well, I was thinking I want it under the board. Now I'm starting to think about the top. I want to see what other components are going to be in the way of putting this on the top. And the pads on this flight controller are really, really small. There's not a lot of room there. Now I'm going to figure this out. So let's see, this back one is the positive, forward one's a negative. How about we do this? We just solder this one like that. And this, actually, we gotta start with the farther away one. So we're gonna run out of wire here. So we'll do that. And we'll get that on there, and then we'll figure out our length on this wire. So let's get our magic helping hands out again. Lock her in there, and it, you know, you can see exactly why you want your shrink tube on there, because try to focus. I think you don't want those little teeth chewing into all your components there. So we still got standoffs that we gotta install. Set us on there. Forward pad's the negative pad. I don't think I want to go out and around because I don't want to push on this connector, so I think I'm going to just kind of squeeze it in through right there. That. Hope so if I can see what you can see. Apparently my lighting is not the best. Trying really hard not to cast a shadow on it. Go right there. So we'll put the negative pad on first, and then we'll put the positive pad on. So already this is definitely going to be way too long, so we'll just, that'll work. Lop that off of there. And those wires, even though the outside doesn't have solder all over it, they're definitely soldered together, kind of from the inside out. So that'll work right there. And like I said before, you know, that's already tinned. I'll get my soldering iron, fire up. Let's see how fast this thing heats up here. It's pretty quick, and it's just working off a little 12 volts power supply. And I think you can feed this thing up to 4S, so if you got a 4S pack in the field, this thing gets hot in a hurry, and it works really well for that. Tip off here. The little copper Brillo pads are super nice. You just kind of stab them in there and it'll clean up real quick. Okay. Some solder on my soldering iron. Get that nice solder bridge on there. Now, it's going to take a little bit more time to heat up. Don't spend too much time on it, but we want to get in there and heat it up to the point that the solder melts into the wire, then into the work. And obviously, if I could feed solder in there while I'm doing this, that would be really nice. But that is not what we can do here. All right, so she's on there. It's holding. We'll go back and touch it up with a little more solder after we get everything kind of placed where it needs to go. Let's set the soldering off to the side here. Now, this positive wire, I need to figure out where we need to cut this guy at. So this is going to come out the back like so. Come out the back, and I don't want it to be all tangled up and stuff, so we'll kind of lay this along there and figure out where we need to be. So basically, cut this off here. Just kind of score the jacket a little bit, just real lightly there, and then pops right off. I'll show you another way to attempt to not wick your wires. These are little anti-wicking heat sink pliers. Real cheap from this company, Radio Shack. Good luck finding those. You put this on the wire, between the jacket and the wire. And what will happen is when we heat it up with the soldering iron, the heat won't, I messed that all up. Heat won't transfer past these little tweezers here. And they make anti-wicking pliers for specific size wire gauges. This is just kind of a universal one. Obviously, a specific one would be better, but that's what we got. We might do with what we got. So let's go clean this up. Another thing you need to learn if you're new to soldering is when you burn yourself, do not react. I've been in a school where we were all soldering. You know, it's about 30 of us in there. We're a couple inches apart from each other, and inevitably someone burns themselves. And what's the first thing they do? Is they flick the iron. Solder's liquid. It goes flying. It gets on someone else's clothes, someone else's hair, face, fingers, you name it. There's nothing like getting burnt by a soldering iron, especially when you're not the one holding it. So, you look here, I don't know if you can see it very well, but that wire, you see the solder comes right up to here, and that stops. And then this is just unsoldered, untinned wire. This is what you want. As the wire flexes, the wire is okay at flexing. The wire can do flexing all day long. Solder does not flex. If solder has to flex all the time, it will fail. So now we just need to get it on the pad here. And you know, I see the irony in what, you know, I'm sure someone's picking up on the irony in this is, now I'm going to solder this to the pad, and it's probably going to wick a little bit into the pad. Or, you know, when I solder it on the pad, the wire's going to wick a little bit, but, you know, try to get it as best we can. Just had a little dingleberry hanging off of there. And the unfortunate thing about these tweezers is it tends to smash the wire down a little bit, and it kind of fans it out. You know, you're obviously typically trying to look for that nice round look. Oh, and the other thing these are good for is you can pinch your wire like that, so wire's held in place for us. Again, this cable, this sucks. I hate this cable. I'd like to rewire that with some silicone wire. Alright, get our iron up to temp. Get in here. Get our solder bridge going. Oh yeah, look how fast that's soldering down in there. More solder, and there it flows. And we'll just you want to sweep your iron off the work. You don't want to pick it up. You want to just sweep it. Give it a sec to cool down, and there we go. Now we can go back and touch up that negative pad. Because I'll be the first in there right now. It sucks. Let's get this guy over here. Get out of the way. Get in on this negative pad here. And let's get a little more solder in there. Here we go. There we go. It should be good to go. Alright, let's see what kind of mess we made. Oh yeah, she's good and warm. And that, that looks pretty good. It's on there, it's going generally the right direction. Now just take this little bit of overhang here. That's why, nice set of flush cuts, not just regular diagonal cutters, but flush cuts. Is one side here is just flat. These things are razor sharp and very precise. Just get in there along the pad and safety squints. Just make sure you don't have any stray wires, stray hairs going anywhere. Shouldn't, but you know, it happens. Get it cleaned up real good. There we go. So, there we go. We have our ESC, wire it up. 4 motors and our main power leads. Some of you are thinking probably, hey, what gauge wire are you using? You know what, I really don't know. It's just some wire I had laying around. Let's go ahead and get this assembled to the frame. Alright, I'm going to put that aside. And put our standoffs on our frame. So this FC comes with these little 2mm thread. So the threads are 2mm, not the head size. These little 2mm standoffs. Some other ones come with a standard, I think it's a 2.5 or 3mm stack setup, which you can put traditional ISO mounts in there. Just a little bit better for soft mounting the flight controller. Alright, so we got this on there, and we'll get our motors in place. Now when you're doing this, you just want to make sure you're not pinching the motor wires between the standoffs and the board. It'll be pretty obvious if you're doing that because they won't sit down flush. This guy a little bit. There we go. And just kind of leave everything loose for a little bit here. Just get everything lined up. Make sure everything fits. Don't force anything. It's really tough to remember to keep it all in frame for you guys and gals. The wire's getting under the standoff there. There we go. And we're in. There we go. Alright. Let's put that to the side there. And make sure we get the motors in the right spot. Alright. Now we're on there, and we'll go and put our second set of standoffs in. Just kind of hold everything in place while we're working on it. So there's nothing else that needs to get soldered to the ESC here. As far as voltage to power flight controller, that will pass through this little pin header here. It's just one less thing you got to deal with. I know a lot of other ESCs are all JST, they all use JST connectors. This one just takes a little bit different approach to it, so there's no wire hanging out around the front or the back of your stack, which you know what, I kind of like. I kind of like it this way. This isn't going to come apart. If this comes apart, you're screwed. Like, you have really messed up in life if that comes off. As far as JST connectors go, yeah, they pop off all the time. That's why typically you see people, they'll cover them in hot glue, kind of hold them in place. Alright, so we're just going to tighten this all down by hand. I'm using a, what does this say, number double-aught Phillips head. Let's go ahead and focus this a little bit. There we go. And grab hold of the top one and turn the bottom one. Oh, actually, this is the wrong size screwdriver. Let's try just a standard number 2. Nope, still too big. And number one. I don't have one. Come on, get in there. Alright, I'll be back. I'll find another screwdriver. Yep. What are the chances that was the first one on top of the pile? There's that. Good twist. There's that one, and there we go. Alright, now let's go ahead and mount our motors. I do recommend Loctiting your hardware, but I don't think I'm going to do that this time. What I really like about these motors without the bottoms on them, you can see where your hardware is. You don't have to worry about hitting your windings, which if you poke around on the forums or on Facebook groups, that seems to be the topic of the day with a lot of these micro builds, is inconsistent kitting. And what I mean by kitting is the hardware that comes with everything is just not right, especially like pre-builts. Pre-builts are coming with hardware that's far too long, and they're killing motors and ESCs. I don't understand what's changing. A lot of things can change, you know, just someone's grabbing hardware from the wrong bin, thickness of the frames change. I think the Ishin Lizard, you know, that thing started off just as a monster of a popular device, popular quad. Everybody was buying it up. Hell, I bought one. I loved it. It's a great little quad. You know, I say it's great, but you know, like my 5th pack, I smoked 2 motors in an ESC, or 2 motors smoked an ESC, or an ESC smoked 2. I don't know. Either way, 2 motors got killed, and so did the ESC. Just straight and level flight, nothing crazy. That was through, I think I bought that. Yeah, I bought that through Banggood. And you know, the Banggood's credit, they're slow, but they'll take care of you. They're not gonna fix it for you. And they're not gonna send you a whole new quad, but they'll either get you the parts or they'll get you the money off of your original purchase so you can get new parts. So I mean, unfortunately, you know, we are dealing with typically low quality stuff. Usually, if it's affordable and cheap, it's not going to be the highest quality. That doesn't mean we can't make it work. I'm hoping that you'll learn a little bit from here, especially with soldering. Soldering, is, you know, like I said earlier, seems to be everybody's hang up with this hobby. Soldering ain't hard. You got to be methodical about it. And you got to plan ahead on what you're doing. There's 2 motors. Looking good. And what I would really like to do is, I know it's going to be a pain in the butt to do it, so I'd like to pull the bell off of these things, try to slide some heat shrink over the stator and the arms, and heat shrink down over the arms. I think that'd be really slick. But, you know, just extra time. This will work just fine. The big worry with the arms, or the wires going over the arms, is when you crash, props bend. And when those bent props, especially if they bend down, they end up picking up your motor wires and chewing them up. These little micro quads, everything's so small on them that when they bend, they end up in your motor wires. So that's that. That's assembled there. Next, little flight controller. Now this is gonna be super hard to install. No, it's not. It's stupid easy. All right, I have these little TPU mounts that I've printed. Shocker, right? You're 3D printing and you have mini quads. Yeah, they kind of go hand in hand at some point. And I'm not using these for the motors, so I'm going to use them to mount try to soft mount the flight controller here. So we'll just stick one of these on top of each of the posts here. You know what, something I just thought about is if I put these soft mounts on there, I don't know how well that board's going to sit down on that pin header. So let's just do 2 of these and see where we're at. Let's see, let's get this board mounted. Be very careful you don't bend those pins. And yep, that's not going to work out. Alright, heck with it. We're not soft mounting the flight controllers. Not going to soft mount the flight controller. We're not soft mounting the motors. We're going rigid on everything. It's probably a bad idea. Put the flight controller in there. Make sure it lines up. And there we go. Flight controller is installed. How's that for easy? Look at that. That's just pretty. That's just real pretty. All right. So before we go on to the VTX, we gotta come back to this guy here. Motors are installed. All right, cool. Camera. Can install our camera. Now, the reason why we have to go to our camera to our flight controller here is because we have an OSD built into the flight controller. So the video out, so the video's coming to the camera. That video signal needs to go into the flight controller, where it will overlay the Betaflight OSD onto the picture that's coming in from the camera. It's going to overlay it onto the video, and then it's going to come out of the flight controller. So signal in, and it's going to come out to our VTX signal here. When it comes out of here, this is where all the magic happens, and now we have our video from here mixed with our OSD out to our VTX, and then, you know, goes out into the atmosphere and you get it in your goggles. So I need to do a little trickery here. Let's take a look at our VTX. So we've got 5 volts, video out, ground P, 7 to 24 volts. What does that all mean? And the manual is utterly useless. Piece of crap. I don't know why I looked at it. See, I don't see a video in on this. There's got to be a video in. That's video out. It's supposed to be there. It looks like this does have a voltage regulator on it, so this can power the camera. So can the flight controller. So I'm assuming this is your input power and ground. Here's your output power and ground. Why does that say video out or VI out? Don't make no sense. It should be video in. No, let me get on the computer and take a look, see what it says. After perusing Banggood real quick, yeah, I don't know, must have been lost in translation, I guess. So 5 volts out, ground out to your camera, and this is video in. Why it says out, I have no idea. This is wrong. This is video in. And this is your power in to power this board. We're not going to use the 5 volt regulator that's built into this. We're going to use the one that's built into this guy. Why? I don't know. We're just going to go with that. So we're going to wire the camera here. I'm going to wire the camera, ground, signal, and power into the flight controller. And then we're going to come out of the flight controller and have signal into this one. Show you like this. So this will be our signal wire into video out, which is video in, and then our power and our ground to here. So this will be powered from here rather than from VBAT or any other source. So you can do it one of two ways. You know, you could power your camera off of this, you could power your camera off the board. It really doesn't make a difference. It might actually be better through here because it'll be additional filtering, but I'm sure it won't be bad. We'll see what happens. So there we go. That's the game plan for now, anyways. So got that. Got our camera. Camera's gonna go obviously in the front here. Get our parts out. Need that. Need that. Gonna need that. Not gonna need that. You would use this cable, the one with the blue wire, if you're going to use the built-in OSD. So that this little blue wire here, you would wire that to your positive on your battery pad, and that would give you your VBAT. Which I've seen other reviews. It seems to be hit or miss whether it's accurate or not. There's no way to adjust it that I know of. So you'll have to just learn what offset you got to calculate into what you see if you're just going to use the OSD on this. But that's not the way we're going to roll. So this guy over there. And let's see. Let's put these screws back into here. So I never put them back in. This is that double-aught Phillips head. Camera, it's amazing how small these cameras are and how good they are. They're really good. I really don't know if there's much of an advantage to a full-size camera over these things. I mean, the full-size cameras do look a little bit better, I think, but for the weight, I don't know. Unless you have a frame that has like a dedicated mounting solution for it, like where it has to go on like a full-size HS1177 style camera body. I'd probably go with one of these. They're nice. The Runcams had some issues with the lenses on these. I think it's the 2.3mm lens they've had some issues with, but you know, again, like almost all of these companies, customer service is fantastic. Runcam, they'll hook you up real quick if you have any problems. Let me see if I already have one of these cut up, so I don't have to cut into that one. And just like that, I have one. You know, use up your spares. Hang on to your spares. Hang on to your leftovers. I think this is the right one. Let's see. These are two different sizes now that I look at it. Yeah, I think this is right. Doesn't seem to be working out for me there. Nope. I feel like I'm going to break something here. What is your deal? Definitely that size and that pitch. Oh, alright, yeah, it fits. You just gotta be a little more persistent, I guess. Let's make sure my wires are right. Voltage ground video. That they are. There we go. So, just need to figure out how much wire we want. It's a little extra. I do like to twist my wires and things like this. It doesn't do anything for you besides it just looks pretty, I guess. And let's figure out our camera tilt. We'll cut her off right about there. Can't go back. There we go. Put the camera to the side for now. Alright, I'll straighten these out and tin them up real quick. I cut my fingernails the other day and I can't grab a hold of these, so we'll do it with the diagonal cutters. In industry, at work, we call these dikes. I really have no idea why we call them that, but we do. We'll call them that until somebody gets offended. And there we go. Alright, so we got those stripped. I'll do this with helping hands this time. There we go. Alright, that's in frame. Fire up the old brand new device. I need more solder. Cut ourselves off the slug here. And what are we going to do with this? Yeah, that's right. I'm going to clean it. Look at that. Look at all that oxidation's coming off of there. It's not clean until it's shiny and clean. I don't know if it's picking up on the camera, but the wire is visibly more. It's visibly shinier than it was before I started cleaning it. So we got that. That's all heated up. Let's clean her off. Go. Silicone wire is so nice to work with. But what's even better than silicone wire is pre-tinned wire. A lot of aviation applications. Like in the real world aviation, wire comes with a tin coating on it, and it is so nice and easy to solder to. Okay, so let's gotta figure out which pins what. Back to the old computer diagram. So it looks like it's power signal ground. I'm just going to double check this on the phone. My printer's only black and white, so it's kind of hard to tell. And I think I bought almost all of these parts other than the frame from Banggood. So pretty easy to look up the diagrams, look up the references. All right, let's see. There we go. That's what we're looking for right there. So we want, yep, like I said, like I thought, 5 volts, signal, and ground. These 3 pads off to the right here. So we've got 5 volts, signal, and ground. They're kind of hard to read, especially since I've already tinned everything once already on this board. But we will get this on there, no problem. And stand your solder up. run cam brand solder holder. Alright, let's kind of fit it up where we want it. Just get a little bit of solder on the iron and shake our crackhead here. Get in, get out, and there we go. Signal wire. Signal's typically yellow, but you know, you can make it whatever color you want. I'm not going to go through the extra effort to reinvent the wheel here, so we're just going to go with what we got. And one more. I really hope you guys can see this. I'm not just covering up my big fat hands. One of the things you want to look out for when you're doing this is your standoffs. They're made of cheap plastic, and you can tell when you're touching them because you know, it smells bad. You can smell them burning. Luckily, the hardware you use to mount the stuff's not anything super precise, so you can get away with melting them, and it'll typically it'll still go together. You want to watch out for all these little caps and whatnot that are in there. You don't want to risk melting those off. Stick it to the side there, and let's see. That looks pretty good. Let's see, get a nice close up of there. Power, video, and ground. There we go. Now we're going to go to the back of the board here. We'll get these pads here. These three are going to be our power, video out, and ground. Video in, video out. Picture comes in, goes through the OSD, gets overlaid with the OSD, comes out, goes to our VTX. We're going to solder up the VTX. You can do it one of two ways. You can start at the VTX and go to the flight controller, or you can start at the flight controller and go to the VTX. Either way, it doesn't really matter. The VTX did not come with any wire, so we're going to have to get some wire. And if you notice, I cut off a lot of extra wire off of that connector for the camera. So I've got plenty of extra wire laying around. Go ahead and use those wires so we can kind of keep the same color scheme going. You can use whatever color you want, just don't screw it up, because it's not that this stuff's very expensive, it's just waiting for that slow boat from China to bring it to you. I mean, not to say there aren't retailers in the U.S., which I would highly recommend most of the ones you use, but we know what drives sales, and it is price. Okay, wait for this to warm up. There we go. Get a little bit of solder on there, get a nice thermal bridge, and wait. 1, 2, and 3. Some of you may be thinking, what about flux? Liquid flux, paste flux, whatever kind of flux you got. I recommend you put flux on every single joint, every single wire, every single time. The reason I'm not doing it is I just moved across the country from a very northern part to a very southern part. I have no idea where a lot of my stuff's at, so that's why I'm not doing it. But if I had it, I'd be doing it. Alright, and let's see, like we said, we're not going to use the 5 volts in or no, the 5 volts out are ground to power the camera. We're doing that off the flight controller. We're going to hook it up to hook the flight controller power to this. So you can do the through-hole thing if you want. I like just having pads to solder to, so go ahead and pre-tin those. And you want to tin everything. Any exposed pad, you really should be putting solder on. Alright, there we go. And I'll get a ground wire on here. This, by the way, this is the underside of the board, so we're going to solder to the underside. You can solder to the top if you want, but you know, it's the way I want to do it. This is the way we're doing it. It's one of the things I really like about this hobby. There's no one way to do things. There's right and wrong ways to do a lot of things, but there's a lot of individuality to it. A lot of different things you can do. There we go. Shut that off. One of the nicest features of the soldering iron is the fact that it will turn itself off if you just set it down and you don't turn it off yourself and you just let it sit there. It'll turn itself off to save the tips, possibly keep you from burning your house down, parents' house, your garage, apartment, school, whatever. But I mean, it's one of those things that, you know, I think about. I've left my hackle on for days at a time just because you get distracted and you forget to turn it off. Life gets in the way. Alright, I need some more standoffs. Oh, not that box. Nope, not that one. Oh. There we go. Junk's piling up in here. There we go. Standoffs. These are the ones that came with the camera. Here's where we start melting stuff.